Change will come to those who have no fear. But I am not hurt.
Hello, I am Peyton Guthrie, and welcome to Until Then. As always, I'm joined by Nick Grohl, and today we're going to talk about, guess what? True Detective. Start off episode 4. Nick just watched it like 5 minutes ago.
Literally.
Nick, unfiltered, go for it.
There was a firefight.
Yes,
to
there
quote
was.
Boondock Saints. It was intense and it was crazy. This was probably my favorite episode of the season.
Okay.
I think we've gotten all of the scene setting, all of the backgrounds filled in, all the characters have gotten a chance to get around each other. And so this episode felt like a really good balance of the detective work, as well as the character interactions, the character development. I feel like everybody's storylines are going very well right now. There's enough time for each one. And even some of the weaker links that we initially thought were so at the beginning of the season, Vince Vaughn's character and Taylor's character, now their storylines have picked up. And I think, like, just to jump into Vince Vaughn, he just seems to be better when he has someone to interact with.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
when he can't do the monologuing, but when he's able to be a bit more Vince Vaughn, and he brings that intimidation factor that he needed for this role.
Yeah, he's bantering back and forth a lot better. I like that. The meeting with, I guess they're the Italians, I'm assuming, talking about needing product for the new club and stuff, needing all the drugs and things of that nature. Him going back and forth, the slight intimidation at the end, like I never even fucking had a cavity.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty good that the director of this episode does a really good job of always making Vince, which isn't hard to do, bigger than everyone.
Yeah.
Like he shakes the guy's hand while he's sitting down, Vince is standing up. Vince has to, lean down to whisper into the guy's ear. It physically makes him an imposing character.
Right.
And then Taylor, she said, like his...
We pretty much found out what we all assumed to begin with, what his sexual orientation is, but his storyline became a bit more intriguing just by his girlfriend's revelation to him. So.
And it's very interesting, the whole idea of sex and fertility and growth that so far True Detective's been about this season. I mean, you have Vince Vaughn and his wife not being able to conceive.
Right.
You have the Ray's, the patronage of Ray's son. Is it really Ray's child or not due to the rape? You have all these land deals which can't grow any more farms and stuff due to all the toxic waste.
Right.
I mean, is it kind of like, are we so poisoned now we can't keep going on what we were doing, or we can't keep reproducing because of the damage we've done to ourselves through some sort of either greed, monopolies, sexual deviancy.
Yeah, they draw those parallels together. So with the land, but also the people themselves. I think it's interesting to see Colin Farrell's character Ray going through this sort of redemptive storyline, whereas you see Taylor to an extent kind of riding further down. He started drinking. That was the whole reason his sexuality came out, was because he was unable to control himself. And then Vince Vaughn is going further into the seedy underworld that he was trying to get out of, and so there's a lot of that interesting stuff going on. I mean, again, our lone detective that's kind of trying to stay the course, Rachel McAdams, she's really the only one that's hasn't fallen down yet, but some of her seediness has come to light recently. She being put on a leave or whatever
due to her sexual activity. It all kind of tying together. Now, I watched this episode 3 times now, and every time I ended up kind of drifting off. It didn't hold my attention as much as it seems like it held yours.
Yeah.
Now, the last 10 minutes was amazing,
right?
But at the same time, I've watched it 3 times, and I keep going, what was that about? Like, there's almost no build-up to it. It's just something that, boom, happens. Now, I think it's going to be something that turns the show on its axis, like, afterwards. There's no way
we're
they
essentially
keep
at the
them
midpoint, and there's going to be so much collateral based off of just that firefight, because, I mean, just the casualties, plus, because that guy's definitely probably not the killer.
Yeah, but that's the guy they want to be the killer.
Right.
So they're going to say, we got him, we're done.
Right.
So I think the state is going to close the case, and then the last 4 of these episodes are going to be our guys investigating the state.
Which kind of is very similar to the case from season 1,
Mm-hmm.
where they closed the book on it, but Matthew McConaughey was like, "I'm not good."
Yeah.
And he
Not
kept
done
going.
yet. Yeah.
So that will definitely be interesting to see the fallout from this gunfight at the end, because yeah, they've led them right to this guy, and you saw it happen, and you're like, they're going to kill him, and they're not going to be able to question him and find out what they need to know, and this is exactly what they want to find out, or the way they want it to be, because now Colin and Rachel and Paul or Taylor, they can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Even Vince Vaughn is screwed, because he was sending guys out being like, I want this guy, I got to ask him questions. Like, it was just set up for them to kind of fail.
And there's a huge explosion that don't really know how it happened.
It could be that when they were infiltrating, that there was possibly drugs up there, so maybe they were trying to dispose of it by setting it on fire.
Yeah.
That might have been their exit plan.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's some sort of claim, or that's the way the states or the Vinci mayor is going to say, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's all I think we're about to get our toes and hands, our entire bodies into the dirtiness of it all, and really start going in there. You see Ray's character being completely complicit in everything, to now that he's sobered up, now that he's died, basically, and he's come back. This is a different Ray than after he was shot. It seems he is more on a noble path, and the idea of, telling his son that it's one of these days, it's going to be important to you to know where you came from.
Yeah.
So I think maybe he's reaching back into himself and pulling out some of that old decent that used to be inside of him.
There's a lot of commentary on legacy, on family, because just off of Ray's storyline, off of Vince's storyline about wanting to leave something behind, and then also with Rachel's father, when they went to visit her this episode, he looks at Colin and is like, your Aurora's just crazy. He's like, you look like you've lived thousands of lives. And so there's just this theme of just kind of what you leave behind and what to put forward, kind of thing.
Yeah, because Vince talks about it, I think in the very first episode, he's like, I've always wanted land.
Yeah.
But the land they'll be getting is this broken, infertile land that's just destroyed by toxic waste or mine runoff and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it seems they're going to do some sort of commercial zoning, make it some sort of commercial corridor or something of that nature. Yeah, something that makes money on the up and up. But at the end of the day, it's still just, what is it? I mean, what does that actually mean? Just because there's another Starbucks there or a strip mall, what does that actually mean for your legacy? What is that actually building other than some other cardboard cookie cutter thing that's just kind of there, I mean, the show's diving into some interesting things about everyone's idea of what wealth and what legacy and what importance is. Everyone's just grabbing for these materialistic things and pulling towards themselves as fast as they possibly can. Even Vince talks about it. It's like, this generation, everyone wants to go straight to the top. Just jab at us millennials. I see you. But how do you see Taylor's character moving forward now? Because now he seems the one who's completely emotionally shattered. When first it was Ray.
Because even during the gunfight, when Rachel and Colin, they were very shook up, and him having his experience in war and stuff, he was just like, all right, it's done. I think he might be the wild card that we don't see coming a lot, just because of his state of mind and how little we know of him and how little he's been an active member very much. He's starting to pick up, but at the same time, things are going out of control, and we're seeing the seeds of what happened to Colin's character happening in him, with the alcohol, for him using it to get over what he's dealing with. And he's got a lot of stuff he's dealing with. It
seems interesting because the guy who was, in my book, the only one who's actually doing any real detective work, just got shot in the head.
Yeah.
He's the one who led them to these people. He's the one that did all the stuff and found all the things on the pawn shops. But he's also following around Taylor's character.
Taking photos,
tailing him of some sort. I'm assuming because he said this is a book writer who's in charge of this, not a TV writer, not a movie writer, but he writes books. So I'm assuming that character in his mind in the True Detective Season 2 book is much more in depth, and he has some sort of secret that could have stopped something from happening. It's like Stephen King does. Stephen King will give the hero some sort of tool that will save the day, and then he gets killed off somewhat early in the book. So then it's like he could have fixed everything with one word, and but he's dead, so he can't. I'm thinking maybe that character in the writer's novel version of this series is a lot more in depth, and it could be some sort of extra damn it, if he didn't get shot in the head, he had pictures, he had this, he was tying stuff
Because
together.
up until now, because this episode was the most screen time he really had. It even had a dialogue scene with Rachel McAdams. Because until then, it was just a comment here, and then we see him in the shadows doing work for somebody else. And so there's definitely something there, I think. And we'll probably find out more now that he's dead. Just got straight up taken out.
Yeah, there's a lot of fault lines that are going to be going away from this, and it's going to shake up a lot of things. Trying to find out, how does this Mexican drug hooker cartel mix up with Crow Mask people, mix up with land grabs, mix up with Vinci.
Because you got to keep in mind, because it's the power play that's going on. It's not just about it's the detective. The murder scene is just the catalyst for the show. What's really going on is what we're seeing is the power play between the three different parties, and see like what's going to play out with that.
Yeah, because it seems odd because the show's not showing. It's not showing a lot of actual detective work, which seems strange.
Right.
I mean, it seems like all the detective work is happening off screen, but everything it's focusing on is the interpersonal communication, or the intrapersonal communication as well of our characters, and trying to find out what's making them tick, why are they doing this. It seems he has willfully put aside actual police work and is focusing on the people. It's made the plot seem slow, in all honesty. It's pushing along at a snail's pace. I think these last 4 episodes, now that something big has happened that's all going to propel them forward, will start moving it faster. But as of right now, it really has seemed like it's just kind of moved slowly. It's dragged its feet a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know if it can afford to drag its feet any longer than it has.
Yeah. I don't know. I enjoy this format of filmmaking, television making, however you want to. I would put it more towards film than I would television. Yeah, art making. Yes. Just because unlike a movie, it gives you a chance to expand on characters, and a chance to breathe, and you're not limited to what's going to happen next season. Well, if we get picked up for season 2, what do we do? It allows you to tell this complete story with all this extended time. And it's very much like a novel, which is probably what works out best for the writer himself, is that I don't have to fit 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I have 8 hours. Or for Game of Thrones style, they have 10 hours, a season. So I think that this kind of filmmaking, the style of TV series is really interesting to me, because it does allow for that further digging into the depth of the characters and the storylines and stuff. And for me, the fact that there's 4 characters, there is a sense of a bit of a slower build to it. Last season we had, it was just Matthew, and it was just the other, Woody. I can't never get them. But and I think that's probably what has weighed us down a bit, is the fact that we had to get these 4 characters built up. Because I didn't feel like you. I didn't feel like we were on a good pacing until this episode. This episode to me felt very good. It was bouncing here, bouncing there, back to Vince, back to them. And then, of course, at the end, it just skyrocketed. And so I was like, okay, this is... Because even just throughout the episode, I was like, this is probably my favorite episode of the season so far.
Which then sets now some sort of tradition. I mean, season 1, episode 4, was the project scene. It was Matthew McConaughey running around, gunning people down, being shot at. It was its big set piece episode. Episode 4 of this season, big set piece season. It's kind of like the Game of Thrones. It's the what's it called?
It's the
penultimate.
Penultimate.
Yes, penultimate episode. The one right before the last. That's the one they always pull out all the stops. It seems like True Detective. Its halfway point is that point.
Right.
And speaking of that type of TV show, I'm a big fan of anime shows and stuff. So I'm not talking about like Naruto or Dragon Ball Z, even though I like those. That doesn't fit the example. Like if you look at Trigun and stuff, it's got 27 episodes.
Just 27.
I'm pretty sure. There's a style format for anime. Either it's really, really long, or it's like 27 episodes.
Okay.
And in those 27 episodes, you do your thing. You tell your one big story. You get in, you get out. Okay. And I very much enjoy those type of shows. Yeah. Now, obviously, 27 is more than 8.
Right, but in comparison to other anime shows, that's a mini series.
So I just feel like I feel like they have missed opportunities to be somewhat more efficient.
Okay.
To compel us to keep going. Because when I'm on Twitter and stuff and watching it, like I'll watch Twitter while I'm watching a show, or I'll go back and read tweets from influential people and stuff, and you can kind of see it's lost steam. And maybe it's just because it's the second season. It seemed to have just lost steam somewhat. It's not something it's still point viewing, obviously, because we're talking about it on my YouTube channel. Until then, subscribe or like. It doesn't have me like Breaking Bad did,
Okay.
where I'd put everything down and have to lean forward to make sure I'm not missing everything.
Okay.
But this time, I don't know. I'm at a tipping point, honestly. I mean, for this season, I think, as I'm going to reiterate again, I think 5 is going to be really good because of what happened at 4. Mm-hmm. But I thought 4 was going to be better in my mind because of what happened in 3.
Okay.
I mean, 3. I thought 3 was the best. My opinion, 3 is the best episode so far. I loved the weirdness of it. I loved being in the death, being in purgatory, and then the ending of episode 2 is probably the best scene so far. Being in the house, getting shot, and we haven't really been back to it. You know, they're not on the case. Mm-hmm. It seems like it's kind of wayward right now. But I don't think the actual case. I think as we said before, I don't think the conclusion is finding out who killed Casper.
Right, because that's never been what it's been about. It's been about what's really going on behind all of this.
Mm-hmm. And I think now that all this has happened, because I'm pretty sure this is a frame job. If I'm right, subscribe, like. I'm pretty sure they've been framed for this. Okay. There's just no way. There's a TV crew. There are protesters all there. A lot of people got shot and died.
It's a true setup for the 3 detectives.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it was a setup for the 3 detectives. I think they're trying to get Anna out. I think that's how you say her name. Rachel's character. Mm-hmm. And this straight Ray they don't like.
Right.
And Taylor's just some dude.
Right.
So I think it's like, let's just break this up.
Well, it's like he said,
get them out.
They're expendable.
Yeah.
He made that point in the episode. So it's a lot of foreshadowing to what could possibly happen to him.
Well, this is the first episode Nick and I kind of had some disagreements on. I mean, he loved it. I thought it was so-so, but this is why we talk about this type of thing. Exactly. Let us know what you think about it in the comments below, which will be somewhere. I don't know how to do that stuff, but I'll point down here. I'll figure it out. Until then, we'll review episode 5. This is Nick. I'm Peyton.
Fighting for the only thing